Achha, so what we did last time was that we talked about acids, carboxylic acid, cetyl bond ONOH. और फिर उसके बाद पढ़ा था कि anything that has this is a carboxylic acid. The properties were similar to alcohols. They had high melting and boiling points, and they were very, very soluble in water. ठीक है? और plus, more importantly, they were weak acids. Weak acids का मतलब है an acid is something that gives off or produces H plus one ions. So it's a molecule that releases H plus one ions. Base is the opposite. That it accepts H plus one ions. Just now O minus 2, OH minus 1, and CO3 minus 2. These are bases. वो क्या करते हैं कि H plus 1 को attract करते हैं. Oxides, hydroxides, and carbonates are basic. So they attract H plus 1 and they form water with it. So और उसका पूरा वो जो the whole acid base theory was 1 second per se. So the whole acid base theory was that every reaction on planet Earth is happening in water. Water has two ions, one is H plus 1 and the other one is OH ions. तो अगर आपका solution acidic होता है, then the quantity of H plus 1 ions goes up, and if your solution is basic, then the quantity of H plus 1 goes down and the quantity of OH ions, it goes up. So base H plus 1 कम कर देता है water के अंदर, and the acid, it increases H plus 1. Remember, water is the most important chemical on planet Earth because everything is happening in a solution that's made up of water. So all the particles, जो भी हम molecule पढ़ते हैं, that is mostly floating around in water. ठीक है? All the reactions that are happening in the human body, blood, etc., cells के अंदर, everywhere there is water everywhere. ठीक है? So the particles are floating around in this solution. So that solution might have more H plus 1 ions or it might have less H plus 1 ion depending if there is an acid present or if there is a base present. And reactions are very sensitive to the pH. Okay, every reaction prefers a certain type of solution. It either prefers more H plus 1 ions or lesser OH ions, or it might prefer fewer H plus 1 ions and more OH ions. और अगर दोनों बराबर होते हैं, that is a neutral solution. तो ये पूरा acid base का वो पूरा concept था कि what's the reason that why do we study acids and bases? Okay, so carboxylic acids are this type of molecule. They're a molecule that release H plus 1 ions. So when you have a carboxylic acid, तो उसका जो end वाला जो H है, OH वाला, not any other H, the OH is the one that is released. It releases that particular H plus 1 ion. इसको वो release करता है. Which is why pani ke andar, solution ke andar, the quantity of H plus 1 ions goes up. So you've got all sorts of acids. I mean, this one is a carboxylic acid. Why it's a carboxylic acid? Because it's got this cetyl bond O and OH group. So that's a carboxylic acid. फिर reactions इनके. The first one was a metal plus acid reaction and it produces salt plus H2. We did a few of them. Na with HCl produces NaCl plus H2. The key to forming a salt is get rid of the H and put the metal in its place. So, agar Na reacts with the butanoic acid, the OH needs to be replaced by Na. That's it. You'll get the salt and hydrogen gas would be produced. If aluminium is reacting with methanoic acid, so jo OH wala H, I replace that with aluminium. And since aluminium is 3 plus and this is minus 1, crisscross karo, so this would become 3 and H2 gas is going to be produced. Bases ka reactions are similar. Metal oxides or hydroxides, same thing, except the byproduct is going to be water. The H is going to be replaced by Mg, it would become MgSO4. The HClH would be replaced by Na, it would form NaCl plus H2O. The same thing over here. If it's a carboxylic acid, replace it with Na. This would be the salt that would be formed, and water is going to be formed. Methanoic acid, same thing. Replace the H with barium, and a salt and a water molecule is going to be formed. Carbonates ka exactly same reaction. Just get rid of the H, replace it with NaCl. Mg, replace the H with Mg, it would become magnesium nitrate. Or carboxylic acid, same thing. Get rid of the H, replace it with Mg. And there's a fourth reaction which we're going to study, and the fourth reaction is that's also an acid reaction, and that is ammonia plus acid produces ammonium salt. So whenever you react an ammonia molecule with an acid, it produces an ammonium salt. तो इसमें क्या होता है कि there is NH3. You react it with an acid, let's say HCl. Get rid of the H, and ammonium salt is going to be produced. And ammonium salt is something that has NH4 plus 1 in it. Ammonium का मतलब ही ये होता है, ठीक है? Ammonium means NH4. It means NH4 plus 1. So it simply means NH4 plus 1. तो आपने HCl का H हटाना है. So if I write HCl, what you're going to do is get rid of the H, or इस H को हटा दो, ठीक है? Get rid of it and replace it with an ammonium this time. And CLS minus 1, that is ammonium chloride. Similarly, you have another ammonia molecule and it reacts with another acid, let's say phosphoric acid, H3PO4. तो वही करना है, get rid of the H, यानी इसी को अगर copy paste कर लें, तो get rid of the H, अगर H हटाओगे तो you'll be left with PO4, that's it. And PO4 has a charge of -3. And replace the H over here, H3PO4 में H, get rid of the H, replace it with ammonium, NH4 plus 1. And if you do crisscross, it's going to be NH4, 3PO4. And that is what the salt is going to be. It's going to be ammonium phosphate. When it comes to carboxylic acid, same thing. You've got ammonia, and let's say it's ethanoic acid, CH3COOH. So you OH ka H, get rid of it and replace it with ammonium. That's it. To the end, replace the H with NH4 plus 1. So all you have to do is get rid of the H. So replace H plus 1 in acid. With NH4 plus 1, and you'll get the salt. Okay, that's all you have to do. तो ये आपके पास total 4 reactions है which you have to study. Metal plus acid, base plus acid, carbonate. अच्छा, इनके formulas वगैरह मैं यहाँ पे I'll send the sheet again जिसके अंदर सारे formulas वगैरह लिखे हुए. Just 1 second, so that you remember the acids and you remember. कहाँ पे, एक second. अच्छा, इसके अंदर you should know the formulas of the acids and the ions. तो इसको हम वैसे यहाँ पे you should know what a bicarbonate, what is a carbonate, what is nitric acid, what is sulfuric acid. This thing has to be memorized. And you also have to know कि जो भी salts वगैरह बन रही है, specifically the names of these sulfates, nitrates, and their formulas. Okay. So we'll cover that. We'll revise all of this in acids and bases once again later on. Okay. लेकिन वैसे यहाँ तक clear है? Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Saneem, is this clear?
Yes, sir.
तो मैं बस एक आखिरी दफा इधर समराइज करूं कि that is कि you see any carboxylic acid, double bond O and OH, and you want to turn it into a salt. So in every reaction, it's the same thing. It's exactly the same thing. The acid gets neutralized, which means that wo jo H will lose kar raha tha, that H is going to be gone, and it's going to be replaced by something else. We don't know what that something else is. It depends on the equation. So if it reacts with a metal, it's going to be that particular metal. If it reacts with a base, it would be the ammonium salt karna hai, to ammonium yahan pe aa jayega, theek hai. Every time it's going to be this H that's going to be replaced by something completely different. So that is all that is mostly what we have to study about carboxylic acids, that they are weak acids. And also remember that carboxylic acids will weakly conduct electricity in aqueous state. As they will weakly conduct electricity in aqueous state. Why? Because they weakly ionize. Anything that has ions in solution, it's going to conduct. So they weakly ionize. You have carboxylic acid. So एक दो ions, the OH will break up and it would release an H++. So your solution, whenever you have a solution that contains carboxylic acid, most of the carboxylic acid are not going to ionize, most of them, because it's a weak acid. So ज़्यादातर जो molecules होंगे ना, they would remain as carboxylic acid molecules. अच्छा, बीच में there are going to be just a few molecules that would break down and produce ions. For example, this one. ये बीच में से ना इसका H और OH जो है ना वो टूट के अलग हो जाएगा. So this one might break down to produce ions. So CO -1 बन जाएगा and the H+1 ion would break up. So they would be floating around. So remember what is meant by a weak acid. A weak acid is the one that doesn't fully ionize. TK. So most of them would remain intact. Very few of them would be breaking down. So few ions are produced. Hence it will weak. Hence there's going to be weak electricity conduction. There will be, but it would be very weak. You don't have a lot of charged particles. You be clear? Nawal, is this clear? Hamza, clear? Zainab, is this clear?
Yes, yes, sir.
Achha, so they're not going to produce a lot of ions. Like NaCl is going to be a very strong conductor of electricity because it's very soluble and it ionizes completely. HCl completely ionizes. But any weak acid, it's going to be just very few of them are actually going to break down. Achha, इसमें बिल्कुल जो last, the very, very last thing that needs to be studied is achha, that is condensation polymers. ठीक है, this is one of the favorite topic, but most of it is just, I mean, you just have to remember three things about this. Now, what is condensation polymer? We did discuss polymers that they were basically monomers, hundreds of thousands of them, which would simply join up, and they link up with each other. So they join up and they link up with and hundreds of them are just going to create these linkages. They form these strands. Just like the human hair is a polymer, so they create these thin strands which are entangled with each other. That is most of your fabric. TK, spider silk, that is something like that. TK, so these are all polymers. Proteins are polymers. Nylon is a polymer. Most of the plastics that you see around are basically hundreds of monomers joined together to form this very large macromolecule. So these are single monomers joined together to form a large macromolecule. अच्छा, अब ये कि we're going to talk about condensation polymers. Condensation polymers specifically, there was one that we already did. It's just 1 second. Actually, there was one that we already did, and those were addition polymers. TK, we did that in somewhere in alkenes. ये alcohol से पहले था. अच्छा, उसके अंदर we did this. कि let's revise that as well. कि what we did was कि an addition polymer had, I mean, the monomers were alkenes. They had double bonds, all of them. And under high pressures and high temperatures, thousands of monomers would join up. What would happen is that unke beech mein the double bond is going to break, all of them, and they would start linking up with each other. The carbon atom, after the removal of the double bond, would be short of one bond. So it would connect with the other carbon atom and so on. So everyday plastics इसी तरह strands entangled with each other. So we learned about all of this as well. कि I told you कि double bond को बीच में रखते हैं, and you shouldn't draw anything on the right side or left side. So when you draw the double bond in the middle, so the CH3, I mean, this CH3 must be turned downwards. Okay, this CH3 over here is also turned or bent downwards. Right side or left side पे कुछ नहीं रखना है इस double bond के. And we drew all those monomers. यहाँ पे भी वही किया था कि you had this molecule, you draw the double bond, but the CH2 CH3 has to be bent downwards so that there's nothing, क्योंकि right side पे you had to make these linkages. एक वैसी revision के लिए ना हम कर लेते हैं कि the way we learned how to make polymers was if you had, if you had this monomer, second pen नहीं काम कर रहा, just a second. तो डबल बॉन्ड, जो ये वाला डबल बॉन्ड है, there should be nothing on the right side. तो जो चीज right side पे है उसको आप नीचे की तरफ ले आओ. So I'm going to bring the CH3 downwards. और जो उसके left side पे है वो भी left side पे नहीं होना, should bring it downwards. और बाकी उसी तरह, the CH3 is on top. and there's an H that's on top. तो ये हम करते थे और करने के बाद इस तरह के ढेर सारे हम we would connect them to each other. So you would have these monomers, the double bond would vanish in between, and they would all start linking up with each other. And they would start making this chain, this long thread, which would be called a polymer. तो ये तो हमने पहले कर चुके हैं, हमने इस तरह की काफी प्रैक्टिस की थी, हम polymers के we did harmful effects as well. The next one, the one that we are trying to do, is going to be slightly different. The concept would be the same, but it would be slightly different compared to this one. And these are known as condensation polymers. The first thing is condensation means that in this case, water is produced as a byproduct. So that is one very important fact कि water produce होता है हर दफा. अच्छा, condensation polymers में एक और जो चीज है वो ये कि when you talk about अच्छा इसका condensation polymers के बारे में जब बात करोगे ना, what the other thing is कि तीन types के. One of them are known as let's start with polyesters. So the second type, they're known as polyamides. And the third type, they're known as complex carbohydrates or starch. Or starch. So three types of condensation polymers. Starting with the first one. Let's look into the first one. The first one is known as a polyester. As a polyester are, I mean, they're kind of very popular. One of the reasons polyesters are very popular are because users पहले पढ़ लेते हैं, बाद में देखते हैं कि ये है क्या. One of the reasons why they're very popular is you make fabrics out of it. And the one that makes fabrics, that's terylene. So terylene is one of the most common. कभी किसी भी कोई कपड़ा खरीदो ना, उसके पीछे टैग देखो, उसके polyester लिखा होगा. खास तौर पे I mean, sweaters are made out of polyester a lot because wool is expensive. You can't really produce. I mean, you can't really produce sheep wool at such a very large scale. So wool is very expensive. But plastics, they're kind of really cheap. So we can just. तो जितने भी fabrics वगैरह you see around you, खास तौर पे जो woolen fabrics, fleece वगैरह, ठीक है, that's the sweaters. एक second hold करो. Just hold on 1 second, ये मैं call. अच्छा चलिए सॉरी, ये मैम डिस्कस कर रहे थे कि fabrics are made from polyesters, and that's why they're very popular. ठीक है, so and terylene is one of the main examples. So it's one of the main examples of what a polyester is. अच्छा एक और है कि polyester जो है ना, you've got natural, एक होता है man-made synthetic, ठीक है, this is synthetic, the first one. फिर ये polyesters naturally भी exist करते हैं. These polyesters are basically fats, जितने भी है ना human body के अंदर fats are basically a type of natural polyesters. और ये fats में ना सब कुछ आ जाता है, vegetable oil वगैरह etc. anything. So it's a type of natural polyester. The reason I'm not calling it exactly a polyester is क्योंकि इसके अंदर वो मैं explain करता हूँ, ठीक है. So just remember कि fabric is one use and the other one is कि human body के अंदर fats, कहीं भी fats actually, oils, fats, etc. They're a type of polyesters. So the question is, what is a polyester? How do you make it? So you need monomers for that. To make a polyester, you need two monomers. ठीक है, monomer number one is known as a diol, which means okay, there's going to be a molecule that has OH groups on both sides. So that is monomer number one. Diol मैं explain कर देता हूँ. Diol is something, you got a bunch of carbon atoms or इस molecule में दो sides में ना, one side there's an OH and on the other side there's an OH. So that is what a diol is. The rest is all hydrogens. So two hydrogens with this one hydrogen with this one, two hydrogens with this one. This carbon will have three hydrogens, right? So that is what a diol is. The box represents कि I don't care what's in the middle. ठीक है, that is what the box represents. So the box is just an oversimplification के मुझे नहीं पता कि बीच में क्या है, ठीक है, I don't even care कि what's in the middle part, as long as it's got two OH groups on both sides. ठीक है, just hold on a second one. अच्छा, so this is an example of a diol. Diol clear है सारों को? Is this clear? The first, अभी मतलब polyester तो दूर की बात है, लेकिन monomer one, is this clear? Nawal, is this clear? Minahil? ठीक है. अच्छा, so remember this box, ठीक है? I mean, the box simply represents कि we don't care कि what's in the middle, ठीक है? I have no interest in this. मतलब वो हम draw कर सकते हैं, लेकिन वैसे टाइम ज़ाया होगा, तो इसलिए we just put a box on it, ठीक है? Just put a box and दोनों sides पे there's OH. And then you have another monomer, that's monomer number 2. So you've got monomer number 2. This other one is also needed. And monomer number 2 has carboxylic acid groups on both sides. So it's a molecule that has two carboxylic acid. So that has two carboxylic acid groups. So again, an example could be okay, there's I mean, you could have this example okay, there's 3 carbon atoms, and the 3 carbon atoms have double bond O and OH, double bond O, and there are 2 hydrogens. So again, the point is, okay, it's got carboxylic acid functional groups on both sides, and we don't care what's in the middle part. Acha. So again, we're just simplifying this. We're just representing it with the box, and most of the questions would be just about these boxes. So I'm going to try and make the polymer now. This is how the polymer would work. So this one is called a dicarboxylic acid. इसका नाम कर लेते हैं. अच्छा, okay, this one is called a dicarboxylic, which basically means it's got two carboxylic acid groups on both sides. ठीक है, di simply means two. तो अब क्या करना है कि I'm going to show you how the polymer would be formed. So you take these two monomers and keep repeating them. ठीक है, so keep repeating them. Let's draw them right next to. Let's draw them right next to each other. और ये alternatingly ना repeat होंगे. ठीक है, here's another two of them. फिर इससे आगे there's another two of them. I mean, there would be thousands of them, all repeating one after the other. So I just drew 6 of them, but in reality there would be thousands of them. अच्छा, और इसमें होगा कि how are they going to connect? They're going to connect just like ester formation. I mean, the name had esters in them, so we did discuss how are esters formed. कि esters, अगर मैं वापस जाऊँ ना, कि how are esters formed, we did that. इससे बिल्कुल पहले we did esterification. So esterification was how are esters formed? You have an alcohol and you have a carboxylic acid. The carboxylic acid loses its OH, the alcohol loses its H, and the two would join up at this point. So the same thing would happen over here. कि उसमें क्या होगा कि every time the two molecules are right next to each other, the alcohol would lose its H, and the carboxylic acid would lose its OH. वो दोनों मिलके क्या बना लेंगे? They form water. And this would happen at every point. The carboxylic acid loses its OH, the alcohol loses its H. The two are going to get together to form H2O. फिर आगे भी चलेगा. It's going to carboxylic acid loses its OH, this loses its H, and together they end up forming H2O. Same thing over here as well. कि the carboxylic acid loses its OH. बल्कि end तक ही कर लेते हैं. This loses its H. They end up forming H2O. बस ये आखिरी भी कर लेते हैं कि OH, H is lost. They end up forming H2O. So wherever they meet, they start forming these. तो मैं इधर तक ही copy करता हूँ. I'll just show you what would be the end result. The end result would be they would start joining up with each other. तो बस यहीं तक ही करते हैं. So the end result would be कि इनको बीच में से निकालते जाओ. The H and OH are going to go. ठीक है, the OH is gone, the H and the water has been produced. The H is lost and the OH is also lost. The OH is lost, the H is lost. और फिर यहाँ पे भी अच्छा, so all of them they end up losing their H and OH. और ये भी कहानी यहाँ पे आगे भी चल रही होगी. And now you start linking them up. The carbon is short of one bond, the oxygen is short of one bond. They're going to link up. This carbon and this oxygen would link up with each other. The oxygen and carbon would link up. They would link up. ये फिर आगे किसी और के साथ चल रहा होगा. Left side पे make a continuation bond, that there would be some bonding that would be happening. And that is what your polymer would look like. It's a condensation reaction. Every time a water molecule is going to be produced in this reaction, जब भी एक वो बनेगा बीच में से water molecules release होंगे. So water molecules are going to be produced every time. And this is known as an ester link. An ester link was when you have C double bond O, which is right next to an oxygen. So the linkages were ester linkages, which is why it's called a polyester. Poly means multiple. So you've got many, many ester links. So every time you have an ester link. So this is what a polyester would look like. And most of the time, this is exactly what you would be asked to draw. They might ask you to draw just 3 repeat units. I just drew more of them. Remember what will happen. There's going to be a diol. There's going to be a dicarboxylic acid. A diol, then a dicarboxylic acid. Then a diol, then a dicarboxylic acid. बीच में से OH और H remove होते जाएंगे, ठीक है? The OH and H, it doesn't really matter कि किसका H और किसका OH, because you get the same thing at the end. But it's the carboxylic acid OH and the alcohol H. Carboxylic acid OH and the alcohol loses its H. वो सारे बीच में से चले गए and they join up. The two monomers, they join up. Two monomers join up. And in the middle, you all get all these ester links. ये सारा clear है कि what's a polyester? Is this clear? Nawal, is this clear? Saneem, Zainab, is this clear? Minahil?
Yes, sir.
Or yeah, most of the questions about polyesters are going to be exactly this. I mean, ditto this, TK. It's going to be they would ask you to draw a monomer. You don't even have to draw what's inside the box, TK. We don't care what's inside the box. You draw this, that's it. And they would just ask you to draw or sketch a portion of the polymer or draw 2-3 repeat units. So you draw 2-3 of them. TK, wo aap show kar doge. They might ask you to tell them what the linkage is. The linkage is an ester link that's connecting them together. This is an ester. All of them are ester linkages. Uses पूछ लेंगे तो आपने बताना है कि भी fabrics are a type of fats. ठीक है? If you look at a fat molecule, you would notice the अगर मैं वैसे Google करूँ fat molecule structure, then you would notice these ester links. It's going to be a chain. Okay, let's say this one. This is a fat molecule. So you would notice C double bond O and O. वो बाकी box से represent हुआ है, ठीक है? So we don't care about the rest. But the linkage, it's C double bond O and O, C double bond O and O. So fat molecules have these linkages. एक और कोई fat molecule है. So you would notice कि अगर तो कोई, so maybe this one. Neither, this is not a fat at all. So okay, hopefully it's kind of the same thing. Ester link. So you've got all these ester links in fat molecules. Polyester terylene का कर लेते हैं. Although they won't ask you, you just have to draw boxes. So this is what terylene looks like. Okay, I mean let's focus on this. It's you notice this ester link, C double bond ON, O coming in the middle of somewhere, okay? So that's all about polyesters. एक वो पूछ लेते हैं कि draw the repeat unit. So what is repeating over and over again? So what you could do is, you don't have to draw the whole structure. There would be thousands of them joining up. So what you could do is कि ये अगला repeat कहाँ से शुरू हो रहा है? I think it's starting at this point. उसके बाद वो दोबारा exactly repeat हो रहा है. So what you could do is, another way to represent this is, Can you just draw this portion? इस सारे को हटा दो. So you just draw this portion and you write in next to it कि भाई ये जो चीज़ है ना ये बार बार repeat हुए जा रही है. I mean you can even notice कि this is exactly कि ये चीज़ है फिर यहाँ से दोबारा repeat हो रही है exactly same thing फिर दोबारा से repeat हो रही है. So it's exactly the same thing repeating over and over again. So this is what the repeat unit would look like. चलिए ठीक है बाकी ये कंटिन्यू करते हैं. We did the first one. Just remember बस आपको मोनोमर्स याद रखने हैं कौन से हैं और बॉक्सेस फॉर्म में. And you have to remember the repeat unit and the polymer, how to make the polymer. ठीक है, that's about it. तो ये कल कंटिन्यू करते हैं इससे. बाकी अभी मैं फिर वो कोशिश करता हूँ कि हमजा you there? अच्छा बाकी if you have some questions you can stay, whether you can leave. ये फिर हम कल करेंगे. मैं हमजा के उतने दिए क्वेश्चन सॉल्व कर लूँ. अच्छा हमजा just
Sir, should I send the questions again?
नहीं ठीक है खोल. अच्छा हाँ ये वाला क्या इसमें कि
Yes, sir.
अच्छा ये याद ना ये तो प्योर वाटर का ना. Remember
Sir,
this?
so I thought the answer would be A because it's an ionic compound that's being added, which has a high melting point and boiling point, but it said
Yeah.
the answer is C, I'm pretty sure. It says the answer is C, but I thought it would be
नहीं
A.
वाटर वो तो वाटर का बॉइलिंग पॉइंट की बात कर रहा है ना. आयनिक कंपाउंड की बात नहीं कर रहा. वो कह रहा है कि वाटर को क्या होगा. What would happen to the boiling point of water, right? Water had a melting point of 0 degree centigrade and a boiling point of 100. Remember this कि water के अंदर कोई भी impurity add करोगे ना, water's melting point decreases. It becomes let's say -2, and its boiling point increases. That becomes 102 degrees centigrade. So it's going to be C. ये मतलब याद रखना. वो आयनिक कंपाउंड की बात नहीं कर रही. You just added some random impurity to water. Is that clear?
Okay, sir. I thought that like it meant because it's ionic compound which has a high melting point and boiling point that's going to increase.
अच्छा नेक्स्ट वन ये वाला कि इसमें क्या है कि मैग्नीशियम रिएक्टिव सीरीज दी हुई है उससे व्हिच पेयर ऑफ मेटल्स प्रोड्यूसेस द हाईएस्ट वोल्टेज. तो जितना ज्यादा डिफरेंस होना रिएक्टिविटी के अंदर. So it's
Okay, so it'll be B, magnesium and platinum.
हाँ exactly ठीक है. It's going to be B.
Okay.
अच्छा फिर next one is a list of metals. Which metal will displace all the other metals from aqueous solution of this salt? So higher, more reactive displaces less reactive.
That's it.
तो कौन सा मेटल सारों को डिस्प्लेस कर देगा. एल्यूमिनियम. दैट्स.
But sir, the mark scheme
नहीं
said that
सॉरी
was going to be C.
नहीं वो सॉरी वो ये उसने वैसी मुझे लगा कि वो रिएक्टिविटी सीरीज दी हुई है. इट्स नॉट द रिएक्टिविटी सीरीज. व्हिच वन इज द मोस्ट रिएक्टिव out of all of these?
Sir, so it's always going to go by the reactivity series, even if it gives like a specific list.
वो तो लिस्ट उसने वैसी दी हुई थी. He didn't say कि what the list is or what does it represent.
Okay.
So it's going to be magnesium in this case.
Okay.
अच्छा फिर आखिरी क्या है कि ये वाला. अच्छा so this one is वो कह रहे क्या उसने ऐड किया था कि he added एक सेकंड. अच्छा he added कार्बोनेट का रिएक्शन है मेरे ख्याल से. राइट हाँ कार्बोनेट है. ठीक है. Since a carbonate reacting. अच्छा वो कह रहे हैं कौन सा हाइड्रोक्लोरिक एसिड. Now remember this one. Which one is a slow reaction?
Which? Sir, X, yeah.
So that's a slow reaction, right?
Yes, sir.
This other one is fast.
So it's steeper, that's why, right?
हाँ अब ये देखो कि इनमें गैस क्या बन रही है, एक ही बन रही है.
Yes, sir.
So that means they both have the same moles, right?
Yes, sir. So, sir, can we say like same moles as the same concentration?
I mean, one of the reactions is obviously faster, right? Moles is concentration times volume, right? तो अब इसका क्या मतलब है कि अगर concentration में बढ़ा दूं डबल कर दूं लेकिन वॉल्यूम में हाफ कर दूं तो मोल्स तो अभी भी सेम ही रहेंगे ना. Do you get my point?
Yes, sir.
So the point is it's not necessarily it's the same concentration, right? क्योंकि मोल्स जो है वो वॉल्यूम पे भी डिपेंड कर रहे हैं ना.
Okay.
क्लियर है ये? तो आपका concentration बढ़ाने से मतलब concentration can be different, right? So actually the first option can't be true. कि they had the same volume but why had a
Yes, sir.
क्योंकि moles change हो जाएंगे ना फिर.
Yes, sir.
जबकि एंड में वो गैस एक ही प्रोड्यूस हो रही है तो they must have the same moles, right?
Yes, sir.
अच्छा बी भी नहीं हो सकता कि they had the same concentration but why had a larger volume, तो obviously उसके moles भी ज्यादा हो जाएंगे.
Yes, sir. Go ahead.
तो it can't be B क्योंकि you have to keep the moles same. अच्छा X had a higher concentration but Y had a अच्छा पहले तो बताओ कि because he's talking about concentration in all options, so which one is more concentrated, faster reaction or slow reaction?
Why? It's faster.
So it's going to have more concentration, right? तो volume क्या होगा उसका, कम होगा.
Yes, sir.
और ये स्लो रिएक्शन है तो concentration अगर इसकी कम होगी तो वॉल्यूम क्या होगा, ज्यादा होगा ताकि मोल्स वही आए ना, सेम मोल्स, राइट? Do you get my point?
Yes, sir.
तो
So,
why
sir, Y has more concentration but less
हाँ
volume.
हाँ ताकि you get
Okay.
this, you get the same moles because the graph
Okay.
shows that they do have the same moles क्योंकि इनमें गैस तो वही प्रोड्यूस होगी. क्लियर है?
Yes, sir. Got it.
अच्छा चलो ठीक है, ये फिर बस ये.
Yes, sir.
चलो ठीक है.
Okay, sir.
कितने पेपर्स प्रैक्टिस कर लिए?
Sir, quite a few. I'm daily doing like 2-3, I'm pretty sure.
अच्छा वो प्रिपरेशन ऑफ सॉल्ट्स वगैरह वो रिवाइज कर लेना, एसिड बेसिस सॉल्ट्स एक्सेट्रा, ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
चलो ठीक है, शीट है ना वो रिवीजन शीट?
Yes, sir. I have printed as well.
अच्छा चलो ठीक है, और पेपर्स प्रैक्टिस करो,
Okay.
प्रॉब्लम्स देखोगे.
Okay, sir.
चलो ओके, ठीक है,
Yeah.
हाफिज.